Welcome to Plan and Manage Schedule, the 8th process task in the exam content outline. Over this 10-part lesson, you will learn to build, sequence, baseline, execute, and monitor a project schedule across predictive, adaptive, and hybrid approaches. In this first part, you will meet the task itself, walk through its 8-step workflow of enablers in the order you actually use them, and take the very first action step: coordinating cross-project dependencies and grounding your estimates in historical data before you sequence anything at all. In this lesson, you will learn to plan, sequence, baseline, execute, and control a project schedule across predictive, adaptive, and hybrid approaches, building toward full exam readiness. You will start with why this task exists and walk through its 8 enablers in the exact order you use them, from coordinating dependencies through analyzing variation once execution is underway. You will learn how predictive teams calculate duration with parametric and bottom-up estimating, and how adaptive team size work with story points calibrated against a reference story. You will learn how predictive projects sequence activities with the precedence diagramming method, how adaptive teams sequence by backlog priority, and how to calculate float through a full critical path worked example. You will see the 3-tier agile scheduling model roadmap, release, and sprint worked through one real example, then learn how schedule variance and the schedule performance index measure progress. Finally, you will cover the remaining visualization tools, apply everything to realistic scenarios across predictive, agile, and hybrid projects, and close with the exam traps that catch candidates off guard. Every other resource on a project can be replaced. You can find more money, hire another person, source another material. Time is different. Once a day is gone, it is gone for good. That single fact is why this task exists. Plan and manage schedule is the end-to-end process of deciding when work will happen, keeping every stakeholder aligned on that timeline, and steering the project against real-time constraints as work unfolds. Notice what this task is not. It is not simply drawing a bar chart and walking away. A schedule only has value if people believe it and act on it. So this task is really about managing expectations and driving the rhythm of delivery, the heartbeat we will get to in just a moment. Let's walk through the 8 enablers in the exact order you would use them on a live project, starting with gathering data before building anything. First, coordinate with other projects and operations. Before you sequence a single task, identify the external constraints and dependencies outside your control: a shared resource, a facilities upgrade, another program's deliverable, anything your schedule must be built around rather than against. Second, utilize benchmarks and historical data. Ground your estimates in what similar past projects actually took to complete, rather than guessing. This is the foundation for analogous estimating, which you will apply in just a moment. Third, estimate project tasks and milestones. Determine how much effort or duration each piece of work truly requires. Predictive teams size this in hours or days. Adaptive teams size it in relative story points. Both get their own deep dive later in this lesson. Fourth, prepare a schedule based on your selected development approach. In predictive projects, you sequence activities using logical dependencies. In adaptive projects, you order the backlog by priority. Either way, this step turns raw estimates into an ordered flow of work. The final 4 enablers take that raw model and turn it into a living plan you actually manage against, day after day. Fifth, create a project schedule, synthesizing every dependency, estimate, and sequencing decision into one coherent model. This is the moment scattered inputs become a single, shareable plan showing what happens when, from kickoff to closeout. Sixth, baseline a project schedule, securing formal approval of the target dates. Once baselined, this becomes the fixed reference point every future status report and variance calculation gets measured against. Seventh, execute a schedule management plan, following the agreed rules for how often you update status, how you track progress, and the thresholds that trigger escalation to your sponsor. Eighth, analyze schedule variation. comparing your plan against actual progress and adjusting your approach the moment reality drifts from what you promised. This step closes the loop and feeds directly back into execution. Your job is not to produce the most aggressive timeline possible. Your job is to build a realistic timeline that your team genuinely believes in and that stakeholders genuinely accept. A schedule people do not trust gets ignored, and an ignored schedule cannot do its job. Think of the schedule as the project's heartbeat, setting the pace for everyone working within it. If that pace is too fast, you are asking for an unsustainable rhythm. The team burns out, quality slips, and turnover follows. If the pace is too slow, you are not protecting anyone. You are simply delaying the value the project was meant to deliver, which is its own kind of cost. Getting that pace right and communicating it clearly is what makes a schedule a leadership tool rather than just a spreadsheet of dates. This task sits squarely in the proactive dimension of the project management mindset. A reactive project manager checks the calendar, notices a milestone was missed, and reports it. A proactive project manager sees the warning signs long before that milestone arrives. That is the real difference between lead indicators and lagging indicators. Lead indicators, like burn-down rates or trend analysis on your critical path, give you a forward look at where things are heading while there is still time to act. Lagging indicators, like a missed deadline, only confirm what has already gone wrong. One qualifier matters here. Spotting a lead indicator only helps if you actually act on it before the critical path is impacted, and if that action is worth its cost. Watching a trend drift and doing nothing is not proactive. It is just early awareness of a delay you still allowed to happen. Before you can sequence a single activity, this first enabler asks you to do two things: coordinate and use data. Neither is optional, and skipping either one is exactly how schedules get built on sand. Coordinating means identifying cross-project dependencies, work outside your direct control that your schedule still depends on. If your project needs a server that operations is upgrading next month, your schedule has to align with theirs, not the other way around. Ignore that dependency, and your beautifully sequenced plan collides with a date you never controlled. Using benchmarks means pulling historical information from similar past projects, a technique known as analogous estimating, so your very first duration guesses are grounded in what actually happened before, not in optimism. Let's make coordination concrete with the example this lesson uses. Imagine your project cannot begin a key activity until a server upgrade is complete, and that upgrade belongs to operations, not to you. If you simply plan around your own team's calendar and ignore that dependency, you will hit a wall the moment your activity is ready to start, and the server is not. The proactive move is to find that operations team early, confirm their timeline, and build your schedule so your start date sits safely after theirs. This is a small example, but it represents a large category of risk, dependencies that live outside your authority. Coordinating them early is far cheaper than discovering them late, after your own plan is already locked in. Analogous estimating is exactly what it sounds like. You look at a project that resembles this one and borrow its actual duration or cost as your starting benchmark. If a similar office build took 12 weeks last year, that is your first honest anchor for this one, before you know a single detailed task. The real value here is speed and realism early in planning, when you do not yet have the detail to calculate anything more precise. The trade-off is accuracy. Because it relies on similarity rather than calculation, it is generally the least precise of the estimating techniques. That is exactly why this task's next enabler moves you toward sharper tools, parametric and bottom-up estimating for predictive work, and relative sizing for adaptive work, which you will build in the next part of this lesson. You have now covered the foundation of planning and managing a schedule. Why time is the one resource you cannot recover, the 8 enablers that carry you from raw data to a controlled, monitored plan, and the proactive mindset that separates a project manager who anticipates slippage from one who only reports it after the fact. You also took the very first concrete step, coordinating cross-project dependencies you do not control, and grounding your earliest estimates in historical information through analogous estimating. In the next part of this lesson, you will build on this foundation with the two core predictive estimating techniques, parametric and bottom-up, each with a full worked example. That's it for this lesson. See you in the next lesson.